What? What are you looking at? Oh, you're trying to think of something funny.
Yeah,
and
trying to think of a funny...
And the smile on your face is explaining that nothing funny will come out.
Nope. I was trying to think of a funny play on WATA, but I can't. It just...
What's Bruce Lee's favorite drink?
WATA!
WATA!
Stupid.
Racist.
Boom, solid gold. I'm here all week.
No, I was trying to think of, like, another word for travesty, but that starts with an A, and I can't think of anything.
Well, that's okay. It's WATA under the bridge.
Sick.
I see what I did there? That's a wordplay, too. I'm so
fuck.
good. I'm so good.
What a jag-off. Welcome back to It's a PTG Quickie.
It is a PTG Quickie.
Oh!
What the fuck was that for?
I don't know.
I don't know. Ooh, yeah, I can taste that. I haven't had a cider in a while, boys.
Okay.
Yes, caramel apple cider. It's not bad. It's hard cider.
Yeah. Caramel apple. Blake's
That's not the
hard
topic.
cider.
The
Yes,
PTG
no.
Drunk Cast. That's a thing.
Oh god. No, let's get this going. Let's get
Yes,
this going.
PTG Quickie, because there's a lot of murmurings and well, it's not even murmurings. A lot of shouting.
So there has been a lot of development and a lot of information that has been coming forward on WATA games.
That's right, kerfuffles.
Heritage auctions and games going for exorbitant amounts of money. And we figured that we would just kind of talk about it from our perspective and
Weigh our
how
wheat
we
penny
feel.
in on it.
What's it?
Weigh our wheat penny in on it, because it's not
Yes.
2 cents.
No, it's
Our opinion's not worth that much.
no. Maybe the wheat penny. That's
Yes.
no longer in circulation. That you can't really use anywhere.
It's like having what's a more useless currency than
50-cent piece.
a dollar coin? Because fuck, you can't use those in vending machines.
No, you really can't. No.
You can use them in the store.
Yeah,
so they're
you
still
can.
valuable.
All right,
Yep.
still useful.
$2 bill.
Canadian dime.
A $2 bill, because most people look at it like it's fake.
Yeah,
That's true.
maybe the
That's
Canadian
true.
dime that we sometimes get here for some reason.
Oh yeah.
I have a
Or
lot
even
of Canadian currency.
A Canadian quarter.
Yeah.
So, but anyways,
Yes,
yeah.
a lot of controversy around this.
So there has been a lot of controversy, and one thing that I want to preface this by saying is that we are not against WATA, we are not against Heritage, but we are not for either one. This is strictly
Opinion.
our opinion. It doesn't have to be anybody else's, but this is how we are seeing it, and we are not here to judge. We're just here to talk about. Well, you guys might judge.
I'm
not-
always judging everything
Judging?
and everyone.
I don't want to be judge. Yes.
It's impossible to not judge. We are creatures of doing things purely on judging because we lacked instinct.
Oh, that is true.
We pick a
actually.
mate by judging them.
Yes,
we
that's
we,
true.
we pick friends by judging them. Like when people say
avoid-
they don't
Wow.
judge people, that is impossible.
And judging things is an instinct, so it is still an
Yeah,
instinct.
It's not
yeah.
an instinct.
You avoid
Yes, it
certain
is.
people because you're
Animals
judging them.
Animals
yeah.
don't judge them.
Bullshit, they don't. They look at color and go, I'm not eating that.
Any animal would look at you and be like,
He's sexy.
"Fuck him," and bite you in the ankle.
bite you in the ankle. That's
Animals
funny.
don't know any better. They thrive purely on instinct, which is why I love animals.
That's not true.
Because animals,
They think more than you give them credit
there's no
for.
lying in them. They don't, well, except for the ones that purposely deceive. But that's deceiving for thing. But
This is how I know that
does-
Andy does not want to talk about this. Because
no, I
he
do want to
keeps-
talk about it.
He keeps digressing.
I do want to talk about it. I just have nothing to add to it. I'm like you in an
yes.
RPG talk.
Oh,
I'm just
God.
gonna try to throw anything in there. No, I do have stuff to weigh on this. I'll start
Yeah.
by saying that I think grading is stupid. I think the idea of grading, in general, not even just games, but grading in general to me is stupid because
Agreed.
it defeats the purpose of the product.
Well, and so my view on grading is this. If you're getting stuff graded, it generally means you care less about
The function of the product.
Well, not just the function, but like the art aspect of the product, and you care more about the monetary side.
Right.
And the moment you step over that line, you're no longer collecting for the sake of I enjoy this or this. It's I'm collecting for a potential future profit, for kids or whatever. And especially when you like seal something in a permanent case so you can no longer read it or play a game, the game is now useless. It has no value anymore.
Exactly. And case in point, Paul has a graded card, a graded Pokemon card. Well, he can no longer use that card.
Yeah.
So to me, grading feels almost contradictory to what things are made to do. It's purely a monetary game.
Yeah.
Or no pun intended.
Or an ego boost. Because some people will, and this is, okay, I suppose I got to backstep a little bit. Yeah, it's okay. So there is, I suppose, a secondary thing is people will get it to be like, well, look what I have. I have the only one that's graded at X, and it's in this condition, and it becomes a way of bragging. And at that point, it's like, get the fuck over yourself. Who cares?
So no. I see where you guys are coming from. And I do agree that you start to kind of see it more as a collectible. You start to see it as an investment versus what it was. You take grading a video game. Well, guess what? Now that game is encapsulated in plastic and it's graded. You can no longer play that game.
Right.
It will no longer come out of that case. You get a comic book graded. You can no longer read that comic book anymore. To me, you get a card graded. You can still look at it. You can still enjoy it. It's still doing the same thing.
You can't play it. Do you imagine shuffling a deck with a fucking giant case in it? Like that's what I mean.
Yes, okay, from that perspective, yes. But if you're taking things like a baseball card or a football or a basketball card, obviously you can still enjoy it because it's still you still have the image.
Sports memorabilia, I suppose, falls into a different type of category.
But I would never fault anybody for grading their stuff. If that's what they want to do with it and it brings them happiness, then by all means, then do it. I can see your point. I can guarantee you that there are some people who enjoy getting stuff graded. Now, if there are some people who are grading stuff only to score a profit,
but again, are they enjoying it because they enjoy having the stuff graded, or do they enjoy getting it graded because it's an ego boost?
I mean, we kind of collected the NES collection for an ego boost.
I was going to say,
he collected them because he wanted to play it.
It's no different. It's no different than people wanting to collect games, and when they find like a diamond in the rough, or they find that game that they've been looking for a long time, that's not necessarily an ego boost. That's just you want that. And if you have a game or a card or a comic that is graded super high, it's like, you know what? I have that book, I have that card, but it is in immaculate shape. It can't be better than this. Like, I'm super happy with this.
Yeah, I suppose I feel the same way, like, because I have Panzer Dragoon Saga, and I bought it for 400. So to me, that feels like an ego boost. Like, I have a lot of very rare games, but I can still play them.
You would still use it, so it still has the usable value. Whereas I think a lot of the stuff for grading, it's nothing to do with being able to use the product anymore. Right. It's a profit means.
Personally, okay, here's my take on this, but before we move on, is that there are certain things, like sports cards, comic books, I can see getting those graded. Because at least with, like, okay, comic books, yeah, you may not be able to read them anymore, but there's other ways that you can view the comic books that you could read them. They're collected in trade paperbacks. They're collected in these large omnibus collections. Cards, you can still look at them. You can still enjoy them. You can still shuffle through them if you have, like, a stack of graded cards. Like, you can still do that. The video games, I do not believe in grading video games because it literally takes away the reason that product existed, was to interact with it, to tell a story, to play it, to have fun with it.
But then why are comic books different then? Because the moment you get a comic book graded, it's sealed. You're no longer able to read it. Therefore, it's no longer got its intended purpose.
So, because that is...
But you're holding a standard for video games that comic books violates too.
No, it doesn't. Because here's why. Is you take a perfect example like Panzer Dragoon Saga. You seal that game, well, okay, we'll just play it on another collection. Wait a minute, what other collection do you play that game on? You don't. There's no other way to play that game anymore. With a comic book, if I want to take, like, a first appearance of Gambit, which was Uncanny X-Men 266, although that's kind of a comic book people, they tend not to agree with that, but Uncanny X-Men 266, first appearance of Gambit. Well, guess what? Marvel has released a True Believers or like a reprint of this comic. It's been reprinted. It's been put into omnibus collections that have hundreds of issues collected in a single trade. There are other ways to read that comic book. You don't have to read that individual copy in order to still enjoy it.
I can make the same argument for most video games then, too.
So yes, you could.
Through emulation.
Yes,
Well,
you
not just
could.
emulation, but how many different, like Atari collections and things like that have come out where companies take, well, you know, we're really re-releasing this game in this digital collection and stuff like that. So
then it would be the same thing then. Okay, then my opinion would change then that, okay, maybe video game
no, like the
grading
ones you can't get
that
any
you can't
other
get
way.
anymore, don't go through that. But
Yeah.
if you can still get them in collections or play remakes or remasters or on collections.
Great example. Mario. How many different like systems and digital versions has that been put onto?
Well, and that actually...
And that was a good
That's a good segue.
That segues.
Kevin, with a rare win.
Yeah. So what ended up happening is that, okay, so obviously everybody knows that with the pandemic the way that it is, a lot of people had a lot of time to themselves because they were stuck in their houses.
I'd argue this started even before that.
Oh, jeez.
Well, no, because they had to have started picking this stuff up even before then. So my guess is it probably started a couple of years ago, but didn't hit ahead until last year.
Maybe, but there is no doubt that
it made it worse.
That it
Yeah.
exacerbated
Yes.
things because of being
But
stuck
like I
inside.
said, this has probably been in the works for a while.
Probably.
So,
but people said,
considering the way grading companies work, this has been in the works.
well, we're not even talking about grading at this point.
Well, I know,
yet.
but that's just
But
that's part of it.
people were playing more video games. They got around to playing the games that they had never had time to do. They bought games that they didn't know existed, or that they said, hey, you know what, I've always wanted to play this. I'm not spending money on driving to work. I'm not spending money on gas. Like, hey, I've got this extra money to burn. May as well buy that game that I wanted. So then all of a sudden you started seeing drastic increases in the price of video games.
Mm-hmm.
I know at the time PS3 of all systems was one of the ones that just completely shot up.
Yeah.
Well, because those are ones where you can't play them anywhere else.
You really can't emulate them very, very successfully.
Because
I
the
still
way
don't think they've emulated it because of their weird DC, whatever the fuck.
No. Because it was because of the cell processor and the way the computations work on the PS3. There are PC emulators for it. I don't know how good they are, but there are emulators. But there has been no PS3 to PS4.
not really.
You can't play most of those games on the newer stuff. So.
No, not at all.
So what people were doing is they were spending more money on video games, but then what other people started doing was that people started getting, they started sending in their cards to PSA. They started sending in their comics to CGC, and they said, hey, you know what? I'm going to get this graded because now, why don't I just do that? So PSA got absolutely pounded and inundated with all of these requests for cards and grading. They actually had to shut down their operation for a while just to catch up with the backlog.
Oh, that's right.
They were so far behind because they were getting so many new submissions and all of that stuff. VGA, the Video Game Authority.
Yeah, when you have the time to actually look through your collection.
Yeah, VGA was another one who they are no longer accepting new submissions because they have to catch up on their backlog of. So all of these grading services started getting just absolutely slammed because people had nothing else to do, so they just sent in their stuff. And there were people who saw the potential that, okay, video games are starting to go for a lot of money. Grading has never been more popular than it is now. So let's combine the two. And you started seeing things, I think it was just last year, where it started with, what is it, Super Mario Brothers, sealed copy.
There's been a couple of different records set within the last year.
The sealed copy of Super Mario Brothers went for $30,000. It was because it was a rare version. It was sealed and it was a really nice box. It was perfect. It was good. So it sold for that, and then everybody thought, oh, okay, well, there's no way to tell where the ceiling is here, so collectibles are going to be just going up, so may as well jump on the bandwagon now before you can't catch up to it anymore. And then, what was the next game that there
wasn't it Link? Adventure of Link?
No, it was Zelda. Yes, it was.
Okay,
It was
yeah.
The Legend of Zelda, a sealed copy of it that was graded by a video game grading service called WATA Games, sold for $870,000, and people were like, "Holy crap! That game is actually worth that much if it's graded in this condition." So some people's eyebrows were raised a little bit. I think for the most part, more people were starting to think like, "Oh, okay, well maybe this is like okay." The next thing is grading video games and these iconic titles. Like, okay, maybe there is some money in it. Then the next one was Super Mario 64.
Yep.
A
Jesus.
sealed copy of Super Mario 64, sold by Heritage Auctions, graded by WATA Games, sold for $1.56 million.
Ridiculous.
The collectors all started going, wait just a damn minute here. This game is not rare. We do not care if this game is in immaculate shrink wrap, if it's still sealed. This
Yeah.
game sold millions upon millions of copies. There are probably...
It wasn't. Did the N64 have pack-ins?
There were
No, it was
store-
never a pack-in.
Well,
I
there,
didn't think
no,
so.
Pack-ins, no, but there were store bundles.
There may have been store bundles.
Because
but,
I remember there was a deal when I think it was my little sister got the N64.
But it was-
Mario came. She got Mario for almost free with it.
Oh, okay.
So-
But it was... It
Yeah,
was
it was not
definitely-
in the box like
No,
the original.
it was
NES.
definitely a launch title. It was not... Yeah, it was not in the box. But collectors were saying,
Yeah.
as we're seeing all
Sorry.
these...
Even non-collectors were like, bullshit.
Well, no, because, and this is why I also hate the media too when they portray this, because they see, oh wow, video games are the next big thing. This super rare copy of Super Mario 64 sold for 1.56 million, and it's like all of us are saying, wait a minute, wait just a minute, why is this game going for this much?
Yeah.
Here we
Like,
go.
I'm just kind of looking at, like, what loose prices are for some of these. Like, Legend of Zelda loose is right now going for $30.
Okay.
Yes.
Super Mario Brothers, $10 and some change. You look at Super Mario 64, $27 loose. Like,
Yes.
even boxed, like, some of these games aren't breaking, like, 200.
Okay.
No.
So, and here, this will show you how absurd this is. July 10th of 2020. A copy of Super Mario Brothers goes for $114,000.
Oh, right, yes.
November 23rd, 2020. A copy of Super Mario Bros. 3 goes for $156,000. Then April 2nd of 2021, a copy of Super Mario Bros. Sells for $660,000. July 9th of 2021, copy of Zelda goes for $870,000. And then by July 11th, Mario 64 goes for the 1.56.
Yes.
Ridiculous.
Those jumps are absurd.
Yes.
It was in 12
They're- yeah.
like
The jumps are too absurd, are too huge. And what we are not knowing is basically who the owner is that's selling these games. And we don't know who the buyer is, who's actually like, is money actually being exchanged? Is it actually being sold, or are these games just going for this much to try to boost up sales of like people getting their games graded by WATA or selling their stuff through Heritage Auctions?
Well, I know just talking, like, amongst ourselves, not on here, but, like, I remember one of the things you had mentioned is just, like, who the fuck even is WATA? Like,
Yeah.
WATA just seemingly came out of nowhere
They literally-
and said they were the foremost authority on
Yeah.
this. And it's, like, people were like,
That was
who the fuck are you?
that was always my biggest gripe, is the fact, and I knew what they were doing from the start when they started teaming up with Heritage, because Heritage said, we will only sell games that are officially graded by WATA because they are the leading grading expert of video
Yeah.
games. And I thought, where did VGA go? Like,
Yeah,
why did
yeah.
VGA stop? Like, VGA has been around since 2008, or they had already been around for over a decade at that point.
Right.
Like, why is WATA all of a sudden the authority on grading, and why do they know more than anybody else does? Like, the kid who founded WATA Games, I mean, he's like a 21-year-old, 22-year-old, like, he's just a young kid. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
how does he know more about graded video games than the next guy
especially
WATA
when
started in 2018.
Well, so there was talk. I think they
Professional service in
yes,
2018.
their professional service started in 2018. But then you started seeing all of these auctions going for these exorbitant amount of prices, and the constant was always. It was Heritage Auction House, and it was WATA grading them. And every time they brought in some kind of like authority, or there was a story published on the media, online or anything like that, they always spoke back or harkened back to WATA as like, oh, well, WATA experts say this and they say that. And it's like, why them? Why is nobody talking about VGA? Why is
that makes it even fishier?
Yeah.
So then, just recently, a copy of Super Mario Brothers, which for all intents and purposes, probably the same copy that sold for $30,000, that sold for $114,000, that sold for $560,000. It's probably the same damn copy. But this one ended up selling for over $2 million.
Yeah.
And again, then that was when the collectors, like the Carl Jobst, the other people started saying, okay, all right, enough's enough. We need to start looking into this because none of this is making sense. All these other people are saying like, oh yeah, this is the investment to be in. Like, I'm so glad that I got into this on the ground floor. It's like, you guys are not video game players, you're not video game collectors. You guys are investment people who are already rich, who are looking for the next get rich quick scheme.
It reminds me a lot of like the modern day comic book bubble.
Not just that.
Yes.
This is the exact same thing that happened when cryptocurrencies first showed up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I must say, because even now, trying to find like hard drives is really difficult.
Is it really?
Well,
yeah.
And graphics cards too.
Graphics cards.
Oh, because people are
they're buying them just
stuff,
to find these fucking dumbass. To be honest, I still can't fathom how this works.
I can't put my brain around it.
It doesn't make sense to me.
To me, cryptocurrency makes
made up bullshit like all money.
Right.
Well, cryptocurrency makes no sense to me because it's literally like
just data.
You say, oh, I have 5 Bitcoin. It's like, okay, show it to me. Well, it's on the computer. It's not real. It's like
stocks. Stocks are the same thing.
Kinda.
But I have this, but like, well, where is it?
Yeah, it's like it's not physical. Like somebody created it. Like they made it up in 2012.
What do they call it? Is that liquid? It's liquid assets or something like that.
Liquid assets is like you have that and like you could grab it like tomorrow.
That's liquid.
Yeah.
There was a name for stuff like this, like stocks and stuff, where it's real but not real, you know, and I can't remember what the name of it is. It was something I learned in economics.
I don't.
How long was high school for us? 20 years ago.
I don't remember. Yeah.
But anyways, with the $2 million copy of Mario that sold, then people started looking into it, and then they found out that okay, our thoughts of this when they first started doing this. It basically confirmed what we thought was going on, is that there was always the link between Heritage Auctions, WATA Games, and the two were always together. Well, then you found out that WATA Games started in 2018. A lot of the games that they were grading were the ones that were only sold through Heritage. Well, Heritage was formed by a guy named Jim Halperin, who, when WATA was first formed, what they didn't list was that he was actually the president of WATA Games.
Of course.
And so one of WATA's big things is that they stand by their integrity, and that they're integrity based, where if any of our employees, they cannot get games graded. If they do get games graded, they're not allowed to sell them on the market.
That cracked me up. Our employees can't get stuff graded by us. If they do get something graded by us, which already violates Rule 1,
yes,
they can't sell it.
They can't sell it. Yep.
But how can you get it graded by them if it violates Rule 1?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like like the laws of AI.
Yeah, it's
what's always the number one rule: do no harm to human, right? Mm-hmm. Yet somehow that contradictory rule where if he's in danger, you have to hurt something or whatever. Mm-hmm. But if it's it doesn't make sense. That's because I think there was a big thing about he was buying games that were graded by WATA basically he's setting the grade of it.
Yes.
And I know that was a big kerfuffle.
Yeah, so I don't know if he was necessarily the one who was grading the games. Somebody inside there. But
he had an invested interest in them being.
But
graded.
basically, he being the president, obviously he was getting preferential treatment through WATA, getting games graded super quickly, and being able to turn them around and sell them through heritage auctions. But when you are the one who is setting the price, then you start getting all of these other people who are trying to sell their games through heritage auctions, or you're getting them wanting to get their games graded through WATA games. And what WATA's cost, like what they charge for games getting graded, is that whatever the game grade ends up being, you pay
20% or whatever.
I think it's 10% of whatever the game would be valued at.
Get the fuck out of here.
Or they help you sell it and they get that percentage out
they
of
get
the
a
final.
cut?
Yeah. Well, that's
Heritage
auctions.
No, WATA will help you sell stuff too
I didn't
through
realize
Heritage.
I didn't realize that.
It's one of those things where it's like you can go through them, you get it graded, and if you need help with selling it, they can help you sell it.
So if you get something graded and it's worth $100,000. They want you to pay them $10,000 to get that. That is the most absurd thing I've ever heard.
But if you sell that game, it's worth at least $100,000. So you're making your money back regardless.
But that's just like our whole thing of this thing is only worth something when you sell it.
Bingo.
Who's gonna buy that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's part of what's going on is why the prices are fishy, because who's gonna pay $2 million for a copy of Mario Brothers?
When they're
Because Mario Brothers has got to be one of the most common games.
40 million copies of that game exist. So
not to mention 40 million physical copies. An infinite number of digital copies exist.
So
that game has no value.
So what I knew that they were doing is that they were trying to it's obviously outsiders who don't know the inner workings that see it as an investment. They're trying to propagate a bubble, basically.
Yeah.
Because you take collectibles and I'll use two examples that you may not be able to speak on, but okay, a 1952, I think it is, Mickey Mantle rookie card. It's engraded in a high condition. It can fetch like $6 million, I think was the last recorded copy. What people don't realize, there's not many of those in circulation. And in 1952, whatever product that Topps didn't sell or something like that, they destroyed them.
They burned them, I think.
I don't.
Or did they mulch them?
No, they actually. I think they dumped them in a river or a lake or a They literally just got rid of them in any way that they could.
Yeah, I thought they used to incinerate stock.
Yeah, but it's like there's not many of those left. That's why that card goes for that much, and especially in high grade. You take a comic like Action Comics #1, came out in 1939. And what was happening in 1939? Oh, I don't know, a little thing called World War II. Mm-hmm. That people were then saying, okay, comics are disposable entertainment. You throw them away when you're done. Well, guess what? We're collecting for the war effort.
That's why they were made out of that pulp material.
Yes.
Was because they used the cheapest materials that they could constantly recycle and reprint new stuff on.
And so they said, hey, we need your help. Donate to the war effort. We need all your medals, all your paper. Please donate so that you can help our people win.
How that's actually where the penny pulp that name comes from, is because pulp comics, that's literally what they were made out of.
And so an article gets sent out about how this issue of Action Comics #1 sold for $2.3 million. Yeah, $2.3 million. And you're like, holy shit, what other comics do I have that could be worth that much? It's like, no.
Death and Return of Superman?
It doesn't. Yeah, well, that was...
Sorry.
Death of Superman was literally that was the start of the bubble.
I would say
bursting.
That's the most infamous one.
Yeah. So, but then people don't actually take a deep dive and say, okay, it's because this came out during the war. A lot of these copies were either donated or were thrown away, and there's just not many copies left. I think there's
or they were in places that got fucking
where they got destroyed, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's actually, I want to say there's between 26 and 50 copies of it known to exist, at all, which is why it goes for that much. So I feel like they're taking these games like the really iconic ones, the Legend of Zelda, the Super Mario Brothers, because they say, oh, well, it doesn't get much more iconic than Super Mario Brothers. This game single-handedly brought video games back from the brink after the notorious crash of 1983, which is true, but as a result, the game is not rare at all.
Which is,
it is common as can be.
Which is why I'm curious. Why doesn't this happen with something like stadium events or Panic restaurants?
How about E.T. for the Atari? I mean, they destroyed how many copies in that landfill? Because it didn't sell.
Yeah, but there's still a lot of copies out there.
Yeah, but could you imagine a pristine copy of E.T. in the box?
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
that would have value, even if it's only an artistic. Look what the hell happened.
And considering it's a piece of video game history.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, because it wasn't E.T. basically like they consider that the linchpin for the market, the game crash.
For the game crash, yep.
Yeah.
They single-handedly will say that was the game that was responsible, even though there was a glut of other like bad games, like the Pac-Man,
Pac-Man port.
Yeah, Pac-Man port on Atari that was guilty of that too. But yes, E.T. will take the full brunt of causing the video game crash.
It's one of those things where it's the face of the problem. Like Mario's the face of the revival. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those because it's the easiest target.
Yeah, so it's like I feel like they were taking games like that when the real collectors who they would probably want to try to draw in, it's like, yeah, if you're going to say like this game goes for this much, it's like it better be a copy of Stadium Events. It better be a copy of Little Samson.
Yeah,
it better be a copy of Stack Up. It's got to be something that it's like, oh yeah, there can't be that many copies of that around. But when
ones like that were exclusive. What was the one that was exclusive to Blockbuster? The Flintstones
Surprise Dinosaur.
Something like that, where it was exclusive to a single retailer, where there can't be that many copies of that one
exactly.
Anymore.
So when
especially to Stack Up, because that requires Rob.
Yes.
And Rob is a harder and harder to get peripheral now. Even the Power Glove is becoming harder and harder to get. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine... Well, see, but then you have games like the ones that are exclusively for the Power Glove that really aren't... They're not really worth anything.
They don't really go for anything.
Yeah, so it's like it's weird because even rarity itself doesn't really mean a whole lot in the video game world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but, I mean, the collectors could see, like, okay... why are these games going for this much? And then that's when everything led back to WATA. Jim Halperin was president of WATA, yet he was the founder of Heritage Auctions. And then upon deeper diving, they found that, okay, this was actually something that he has been known to do before in the past, where there was a coin collecting bubble that started in the 80s where coins saw this meteoric rise where big companies... started investing in coins because they thought that this was going to be like the next big thing, and then they were building it up higher than it should have been, and then all of a sudden the coin bubble just burst. And even though it's kind of like it's ebbed and flowed, like all
there's always going to be
like
someone that collects.
There's always going to be somebody that collects it, but it ebbs and flows around like at this point, but it will never hit the point where it was in the 80s. It has never fully recovered. And they did an investigation into Jim Halperin, and sure enough, the SEC fined him like $1.2 million because he was the one who perpetrated this and trying to build up the value of coins more than they should have been. And so he was actually found guilty of that. And what are we seeing now? We're seeing so many...
It's literally the exact same thing.
It's literally the exact same bubble. So it's like, oh yeah, who knows better of bubbles than this guy who's already caused one?
And this also makes it weirder. So, in July of this year, WATA Games was also bought by someone. That's fishy to me. It sounds like they were, and again, opinion, so it's not anything, but it sounds like when investors like invest in a company just right before it's about to sell,
isn't that inside trading?
It's a form of investment fraud.
Well,
so
here's the thing, though, is I think, and
at least to my understanding,
yes, it was true. So I want to say it's under the umbrella that is the same grading company that does sports cards, PSA.
Yes, they do.
They are the ones, and I'm pretty sure that like until it can be proven. I think that they're innocent in this because I think they just saw that there was a market for grading video games and they wanted in on that and they decided, okay,
So-
this is our best way to do it. We're gonna.
The
we're gonna
company
do
that
this.
bought WATA Games was Collector's Universe. They grade coins, collectible cards, and other memorabilia. They've already got an invested eye on all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So at this point, they saw that WATA was getting so much more work. I guarantee you it was more than just let's buy them.
But I can tell you right now too is that ever since they announced that Collector's Universe was purchasing WATA, there hasn't been any more talk about it, because I bet you when they had to buy WATA had to start.
They have to be investigated.
WATA had to start providing, like, okay, how many copies or how many 9.8s have you graded? How many? Because Collector's Universe does a lot with population reports.
Right, and I know.
Wow, and I didn't realize. So maybe my ire towards Collector's Universe is a little. They've been around since 1986.
They have.
So they've got a reputation for being good in
good. They keep great books. That's why I said I do not think that they actually had any knowledge of this beforehand, that it was as rotten on the inside.
But see, and then this is another thing that concerns me. So from 1999 to 2021, they were a publicly traded company. 2021, they became a private company. They're no longer publicly traded.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
How do you do that? Wouldn't you have to buy all of the stock
buy
back the
from
stock.
people?
Yeah,
You
have to buy back
basically
the
snatch
stock.
up every stock you can get to get control.
Mm-hmm.
But you would have to buy them from the people that have them.
Yeah.
At a set price,
Yeah.
or it's
Right.
usually whatever the stock is plus 10% or something like that.
Good God. That's
So that
insane.
seems a little weird to me.
But what's his face? He made a joke about it, but and Elon Musk was actually sued for it. But he made a 420 joke, because he's a big pot user.
Yeah.
And he said that the moment that his stocks hit like 420 a share or something like that, he was going to take the company private again. And so then it drove up prices of his stocks, and then the SEC said, you just influenced trading in this company, so guess what? You're going to be fined for this.
Yeah.
All
So,
because
like-
What's a fine?
Oh,
to
because
him?
he was joking.
Yeah, about to say, but he's
Mm-hmm.
got money to piss out his
He
ass. Who
does.
gives a shit?
He does.
If I had that kind of money, I'd be
Yeah.
saying stupid shit all the time and just throwing some coin at it.
Oh,
to
for
him.
sure. For
But
sure.
I'm about to say, you had mentioned. Did you touch on the population report?
I did not.
Yeah, that's
so,
actually the
Because
next
for
thing.
people
Yeah.
who don't understand what population reports are, here you go.
So population reports are what keep the collectible, basically what keeps it honest.
It
And
keeps
what
track of what's been graded.
It keeps its value where it's at, because, and in the case of like PSA grading cards, it could be given a score anywhere from like 1 to 10, 10 being the best and the hardest to achieve, and 1 being pretty much the lowest, because I don't think you can get a 0. Maybe you can get a 0.5.
That thing's got to be.
It's got to be really
pretty
chunky, and
fucking-
why would you grade it in that case?
Just to say you have a 0.
But basically so they keep population reports. So every card that is graded, they have a population of what that card is. How many were graded as Gem Mint 10? How many were graded as a Mint 9? How many were graded as an 8, as a 7, as a 6? So when you see, okay, the price of a card that is in an 8 condition versus a card that's in 10, the value just shoots up hugely, and you're like, why is this so? Why is the value so different for something so small and minute?
So my understanding is something that's an 8 means that there are only 110 better than this. A 9 means there's only 6 better than this.
So yeah, well, no.
Is that how that-
You look at the population reports and you see, okay, there are 2,000 in a grade of 8.
Okay.
Then you go to a grade of 9 and you find that there's only 500 that have been graded as a 9.
So 1,500 difference.
Then you go to a 10 and you find that there's only 10 of those that have been graded that high.
Okay.
So it's okay, there's a hell of a lot more 8s than there are 10s.
Right.
So guess what? I'm going to pay a premium, or I'm going to pay more trying to fetch or to get my 10 on eBay or whatever your trading thing is.
Because it doesn't get better than that.
Because it doesn't get better than that. And because there's so few of them...
Okay.
What?
No, go ahead. Finish what you're going to say.
Because there's so few of them, you know that, okay, there's less in the population, so therefore it keeps its rarity, because, hey, there's only 10 of these out in the wild, in that are known to exist right now.
Okay.
So, I'd have one little caveat with the there's nothing better than a 10, because, each company, their 10 is wildly different standards. There is no universal standard for grading. And this is where I have an issue with grading in general.
Yes, and that's where you have to really just kind of trust what they're doing, because there is a human element to grading, because it's a human grading something. So by nature,
if I catch you on a bad day and you're grading my thing, you could give me a lower score than when you're on a good day.
It is
which
very
is bullshit.
Yeah, so by nature it is very subjective. But what keeps it honest is the population reports.
Right.
All of these grading companies, CGC, PSA, they put out their population reports. So if I have a graded card, I can look up the population report and see, okay, I have this card in a 9, and there are currently 2,000 of them out in that have been graded.
Yeah.
Through there, so I know that, okay, this card has been printed 1,000,000 times, but there's only 2,000 in this condition. I've got a pretty rare card.
So I'm assuming if more grade 9s pop up, the value of yours drops.
Obviously it goes down, because then there's more of them. There's more of them available for people to get. So WATA, for some reason, which I do not understand, because it would legitimize everything that they're doing, absolutely refuses to publish population reports for their games.
I read a little bit on this. Apparently, they're claiming that for legal reasons, they cannot put one out for X number of years.
Wrong.
Which is, that's like, it's being contested by like everyone.
Everybody.
They're like, there's no legal requirement that says you can't. The only the reason people can think that they're hemming and hawing at this is because it would reveal a bunch of circle trading within their company.
Basically,
correct.
It would incriminate them.
Yes,
yes.
it would.
You can't legally.
They're the ones
is incriminate yourself.
So they're the ones.
Well, except for in trading, you can.
They're the ones selling the games, and potentially what they may be doing is they're giving themselves these really high grades, buying their own product back.
Well, there might just be like a fake thing between them and Heritage.
Oh, yeah.
We put this up, and we say it's sold for X amount, we get it back, we put it back up for the higher price to try to get it to sell again, and we inflate the price.
Well, but what that ends up doing, though, is that it causes more people to try to say, oh, hey, I've got that same game, I'm going to send it to WATA. Well, guess what? That game,
now they can make a
that
profit.
Mario Super Mario Brothers sealed copy, if you have one and you get it graded, well, guess what? Now you're paying $10,000 to get it graded through WATA. Or whatever. And if you want more people want to sell their stuff through Heritage, so it's like, oh, okay, well then I'll sell it through Heritage because they made $2 million from their auction, so obviously their auction is really good, and I can make a lot of money from it. Well, they take a 10% buyer's fee, and then they, on top of that, it's a 10% seller, like whoever is selling it, they get 10% of whatever the cost is, and then there's a buyer's premium on top of that. So they're double dipping on each side, from both the seller and the buyer's side. So they have nothing but basically everything to gain from this.
So now you got your card graded, right?
Yes.
Do they tell you why it gets the grade it does? Like, do they give you like some form of thing that says this is why you got such?
So I'm pretty sure that PSA does that, although I don't know for sure, but I do know that VGA, the Video Game Authority, who was the first grader of video games, they will, upon request, if you ask them for why did my game get this grade, they'll tell you where the flaws were.
See, I feel like that should almost just be standard on every grade.
Well, I was saying,
why did you get the grade?
I know some companies will send you an email saying you lost points for X, Y, and Z, and they'll have like, they'll take like an image of it and they'll circle on the picture and say there was damage here and discoloration here.
And see, well, and that's the thing with my the Pokemon card that I got graded, when I was actually putting it into the no, when I was putting it into the sleeve to basically, because you have to have it in this like certain card protector to send to PSA. I looked at the back of it, and you know how with Pokemon cards, like, it's all blue, but then there's specks of white and stuff like that.
Yeah, it'll chip off.
There were specks of white, and I'm like, I don't think that this is going to be a Gem Mint 10. But maybe I'll get a higher grade, like, but I don't think that it's possible to get a 10. So when I actually got it back as a 9, I'm like, this is exactly what I was expecting it to be. I knew
Probably
it wasn't.
because of the chipping.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was chipping that just basically happens right out of the pack. I mean, that's because that's how it comes off the factory line.
Yeah.
So
Because that brings up the point that you guys were talking about before is they have a very weird disparity between what their grading entails. Because one thing was graded a 9, but then something in clearly better condition was graded an 8.
Well,
Yes.
and not just that, but like,
and that's WATA.
especially in the case of like Pokemon cards. So when it comes off the print, there's no guarantee that it's not going to be.
It won't even be a 10 off the print.
Yeah,
No, exactly.
So, like,
that's why it's super hard to get a 10.
and that's why I think like the grading is just bullshit. Because
It's flawed from
if
the
I can
get-go.
literally
Yeah,
get
but-
one from the brand new from the factory, no one other than me has ever touched it, and it doesn't get a 10, there's something wrong with the way the grading is done.
See, and to me, I feel the exact opposite. Is that that's why 10s are so impressive to see either in a comic book or in a
It was just
in a
perfect
card,
from inception.
because it was perfect and everything just happened just right, and sure enough,
Like-
But like
Yeah.
but see, like getting a 10 on something like that is like, okay, it's been out in the wild, it's done, like that's I accept getting 10s and stuff like that. But like in my example where it's a brand new 100% factory fresh and I can't get a 10, like because it's subjective, there's a problem there. Because if every company has a completely different standard by what they're saying each grade level is, well then no grade matters, because it's like game reviews. No company uses the same standards for when they're giving a game review, which means game reviews are entirely fucking pointless.
Well, it's like you were saying too. This will be. I'm sure we haven't alluded to this yet, but just the difference between two different people grading.
Yeah.
Like you had said, it's
Yeah.
subjective. So it's like
It's
one guy
subjective
will
by
see
nature.
it and not see the crease. The other guy will see the crease.
Okay, and here's another great thing. So I give you something to grade. You give it one thing. I give it to Andy. Andy's fucking colorblind. So,
Fuck off!
So,
What the fuck?
so
Why?
like, his grading might be completely different than what you do because he doesn't see things the way you do.
Yeah, you see the yellowing in the corner? Oh shit, that's just green.
Yeah, exactly. So like it's shit like that where like unless if you have individuals who are absolutely fucking immaculate doing the grading, your grading doesn't matter.
I'm surprised it doesn't go to like
Machines,
a
yeah,
couple
at this
of people.
point.
Like, you know, like
Yeah,
you'll
there should be
grade it,
consensus.
you grade it, and then I grade
take
it,
the average.
and then take either the average or like basically, yeah. So it basically you get three subjective views on it.
Yeah. I don't
But
know if they go, at least
Like, I
for
get-
PSA, I don't think that they go through multiple people, but it will go through more than one review, though.
Oh, that's what I would assume.
So they'll actually take, like, they'll take a look at the grade, they'll assign it a grade, and then later on in their process, they'll actually review it again just to make sure that there wasn't any, like, this is what it
Anything missed.
was.
Yeah.
To verify.
Well, but see, and the worst thing with that is like, say something happens to it in between.
Right.
Well,
I was thinking
and
about
see,
that. Like,
and
what
that's-
happens if your card gets just somehow it bends in transit? You know
So
what I mean?
basically, you insure the card
Yes.
before you even submit it. Is that and the
Yeah,
grading
they-
company will actually say, like, what do you value this card at? And so I actually valued the card at thinking it was going to get a 9, and so I said it's valued at this much. So if something happened and that card didn't come back, or I saw that there was a chip in it or something like that. That wasn't there to begin with. It's like then I can
Well, and see, and that's
dispute
the other
it,
thing
and
is
then
like,
they'll give me the value of what it would have been at that.
and see that also
at
brings
that.
up another thing is like, you better be damn sure you have 100% photographic proof of every aspect of whatever you're grading.
There's a lot of trust in it
Because
yeah.
otherwise, like, you could send it, maybe you don't get the same thing back.
That was one of the things that I was worried about too. Is the
So
fact
like
that
they took
you were
yours
gonna
in
get
and then
different
just
that I was
they
going to
were
get
like
a different card.
they,
yeah.
they took yours in, said it looks similar to this one, and just sent you a different one
Yeah.
that was already graded back. You don't know.
That's
Well-
what I would be afraid of too, especially sending in some of these like pristine game copies.
Yeah.
Is like how, especially if they're being shady already.
If they're
How are
already-
you just
yeah.
like,
I'm
this
trusting-
one's better than our best, swapsies.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that's unless if
Yeah.
I'm watching the person grade my stuff, I don't know I could ever trust anyone.
That's why I'm saying, like, it seems so weird to send something in. I would rather give it to them in person. You know what I mean? Like that, I would only trust that.
Well, that's why when I
God.
did it, I actually gave it to them in person.
That's
And
okay.
they,
Cool.
and they graded on site. That was I went to a sport. Yeah, shut up.
Dude,
What? What's happening?
it's picking up on
It
the
will
mic.
not pick up any. Well, now that you pointed it out, I farted. Everybody, you happy? Damn.
We have to
PTG Fartcast.
We have to
Passing the gas Fartcast.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Now you're smelling with power.
no, but that's.
But anyways, yes,
yeah, that's-
I submitted on site and they graded on site, and I actually had to go back to the convention to pick it up as well. So I mean, I know that card never left the convention grounds.
Okay.
Basically.
That's good. I can see.
Yeah, but see, and that's my thing. Yeah, like when you send it to a place that's in a different state,
Yeah.
and you don't have that sort of security. It's like,
Well, and
There's-
I just worry, like, and that's why I got it graded, because I like the fact that I was in control of it and delivered it to them myself.
Yeah.
I worry about sending stuff through the mail, because then it's like, well, what happened? Like, what if something
In
happens to the
transit,
package?
if they
What
did
if it gets
something with-
damaged on the way there? It's like, okay, well then what happens then?
Yeah.
how it gets damaged by the person who's inspecting it,
Yeah.
and it's just one of those things where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you never know. Like if they're already being shady about one aspect, how much other stuff are they screwing people over on?
But this is the
Or because
yeah.
they don't like you because of how many different things you've gotten graded, they give you a lower score.
I don't think
This guy
I don't
sure
know
has
if
a lot of nines.
I don't know
I
if
don't know
they,
if they do that.
I don't know if they do that though.
Yeah, we don't know,
Yeah.
but it's possible.
No, maybe.
It just seems like such
It's a crapshoot.
an industry thing that's such an infancy that it still seems I don't know
It's
suspect
hard. It's
to
hard
me.
to trust it, but
Yeah.
at the same time, but that's why you have to have transparency
Yeah.
from the get go.
Right.
This is why it should all be handled like Antiques Roadshow.
Oh, God.
You go in person, you stand in a line, some old guy looks at your thing, gives it the once over, and talks about some random history about a piss pot.
And actually, that reminds me too. So there was obvious collusion that was going on as well too, because the first time that the game was graded or something like that, or no, I think they. So you guys watch, or you know of a show called what is it, Pawn Stars?
Oh
Yes.
yes, absolutely.
So obviously Pawn
Oh,
Stars.
the experts they call
Yes.
in.
So Pawn Stars
Basically-
actually had
Yeah.
a graded copy of Mike Tyson's Punch Out that somebody brought in, and they brought in an expert who ended up being
One of the guys from
Dennis
WATA,
Kahn,
I think.
who was the founder of WATA Games, as their expert, and he said that this game I would expect in this condition, which is weird because the game was graded by WATA, and I'm like,
Yeah.
your CEO of WATA is your expert, like, come on.
Come on.
And then he said, I could expect this to fetch around probably $80,000 at auction. Well, this Carl Jobst looked and he found that after that appearance, that the game would sell for
Well, that car went for
$80,000.
exactly
It
that.
went for exactly $80,000 at an auction. It's like,
He has the receipts and everything.
yeah, and it's like, wait a minute.
That's an awfully spot on guess,
yeah,
jackass.
how did you do that? And so they also
I
had.
mean, granted, yes, Pawn Stars and shit like reality
I don't
TV is
trust
staged
Pawn.
as fuck.
Yeah, I don't trust Pawn Stars.
Hence why like their
At all.
experts are
Yeah.
already like that quick to get in.
Yeah.
I mean, you
in
look
reality, if you called an expert, they'd be like, "Yeah, I can come X day at X time. I'm not coming right now."
Yeah.
I mean, that's just like that Storage Wars show. That was staged.
Where they'll put they'll put
shit in the
plants
unit,
in there. Yeah.
You know how
Because
often
most-
are you just gonna?
because
it's just
most of
people
the time-
discarded crap.
Yeah, because most of the time you're going to open up the storage locker and there's just going to be junk. Just
Yeah.
junk upon junk.
Wasn't it Storage Wars where they found like a Nintendo system and they thought they were gonna get like $400 for it or some shit?
No. Guy thought he had $10,000.
That's right. It was
And
some
it's-
absurd amount.
And this is because the average person is not as intelligent as, and I say this meaning you do not know why something sells for something.
Savvy would be the right word.
So yes, savvy. So what ended up happening at that point that you're talking about is that a Nintendo system and 5 games ended up selling for $15,000.
But what?
And everybody thought, "Oh my God, I have a Nintendo. What with 5 games, is that really worth $15,000?" What nobody had initially said. What 5 games were they? Well, one of them was Stadium Events.
Yeah, that's right.
And so this guy found a Nintendo, and he's like, and I love it because he kept saying it's an NES 001. That's the one that sold for $15,000 because that's a first run model. It's like, no, I could flip over that Nintendo right now, and it's an NES 001. It's like there's a lot of them out there. Yeah. It didn't even have a power adapter for the guy to test the system to see if it worked.
Yeah. But
he's like, yeah, that's worth $10,000, right? How much would you pay for it? And he's like, well, it's not worth $10,000. What you're talking about was because the game that came with it was very expensive. This doesn't have any games. And, well, you don't seem to have a power cord, so I can't really test it. So, I mean, if I had to offer you something for it, I would give you $20 just because I don't know if it's going to work.
Yeah.
And the guy's just like, oh, wow. And he just was, like, super surprised. And it's like, no, and that's the reason why people get these ideas in their head, like, oh, my Nintendo that's been under Johnny's bed for 20 years, that's worth $15,000. No, it's not.
Well, and then, again, it's also one of those things where it's, outside media not only has an invested interest in getting eyes on them, they don't know the ins and outs of everything. Whoever's, writing, videoing, doing anything, they could just be pulling shit out of their ass, or they're pulling information from very biased sources. Which, then is already skewing what data you're going to be representing. So, there are so many, steps along the way that can fuck everything up.
Well, and back to Pawn Stars. So they, again, had a sealed copy of Super Mario Brothers that was graded by WATA, who they called in the experts, and they tried to sell it, and they said, wow, one has never been found in this condition before.
Yeah,
and the guy,
right.
And I think the guy was asking for, $1 million for it, because they're like, oh yeah, we don't have any idea where the ceiling is for this game. So, and the Pawn Star guys, I think they offered him
$50.
No, I think they offered him like
pawn shop.
$20,000 or $30,000. They're like, yeah, we're not going to go any higher than this. But the guy's like, yeah, he wanted $1 million. And so it's ironically enough that very copy is the one that 2 years later ended up selling for 2-point-something odd million. It's like, okay, really? Is it really? Is this for real? It was literally the same copy, the same expert coming in, and I'm just like, why are they calling WATA as the experts? Video game grading has been going on for a long time. Why is he all of a sudden the expert at this?
Because they asserted they were.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, people
say something with enough confidence.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and that's the thing is they said it with enough confidence, and they had the right people behind them. Heritage Auctions that said, yeah, we'll support you. So because they had one a company with good reputation behind them, they became the premier.
Yeah.
It's fucky. There's something wrong there, and
well, that makes you wonder, how can anyone look at that and trust it?
No, why do you think I don't trust people in general?
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. And then you actually brought up a really good point too that I never thought of is if WATA can't be trusted with providing legit grades or whatever it is, what's to stop them from somebody submitting a game and they say, oh wow, this is in pristine shape. Well, guess what? Our copy that's in our inventory or whatever is a 7.5. So you know what? That's pretty high. We'll give them that instead.
That's
what's to stop them? And then them keeping that copy and then saying, we've never found one in this condition before. We may never see one again. So
and I've even questioned that with even just mom and pop shops or going to Salvation Army type the stores where you can buy used stuff. There is so much that happens on the back end that you have zero visibility on that they could be say I go to GameStop to get rid of something. Well, the person that's working the counter could, pay you for it from the till, and then slide the thing somewhere where they don't have to put it up, and then buy it for themselves to turn around and make a profit off of it.
Oh, sure.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Like
I'm sure.
I know for a fact that happens at some of like
Oh,
like
yeah.
the
Our local GameStop when
I'm
they were
trying
selling
to think of like what the hell the type with the
when they were selling retro games again, or like in 20 whatever that was.
what's the other big one?
Or,
It was
Pre-played?
no. It's
Mega Media Exchange.
no. But they do like the clothes and stuff. It's the
Goodwill.
Oh, good.
There's Goodwill and what was the
Goodwill.
other?
St. Vincent de Paul.
There we go. That's the
Yeah.
other one.
Oh, okay.
Where like I know for a fact that they were getting stuff in, and the people that were doing the ingesting would be like, they'd take the stuff, set it aside, and mark it to a certain thing and buy it for themselves.
Oh yeah, I know GameStop. My older brother worked at GameStop.
So like,
and I remember hearing that like if something rare came in, they would often say, "Well, buy this later." They basically put it somewhere else and then just buy it right away.
so and it's happening at those like secondhand stores. It's to a certain degree, I would assume it's happening at like mom and pop type shops if they know what they're getting their hands on.
If they know what they're getting.
Yeah.
I have a funny anecdote about that one.
What's...
So Vanderhoff, do you remember? So this was last weekend.
Oh,
He went to
Pokemon
the Nifty
Gold?
Thrifty.
Yeah.
Up
got the-
by us
with the sealed Poke Walker.
He bought a sealed Pokemon Heart Gold copy with the Poke Walker.
Yeah.
Got it for $5 fucking $5.
$5.
That game is worth a lot more than that.
Yeah.
Yes. How much
is.
was that sealed?
About
Like, it goes-
1180 something.
Insane.
Yeah.
That's a story you will never hear anymore.
That's a unicorn.
That's a unicorn right
Yeah.
there, man. That is
He
something.
sent me that picture. It was like, look what I got. I'm like, no
in
way.
the retro in retro gaming collecting now, that's unheard of because most places will research what they have.
Well, and it really depends because, like, yeah, if it's obviously if it's an older couple or it's older people running the store, they're not going to know as much or care as much with that.
Which you would still think that
But
Pokemon's a well-recognized name.
Oh, yeah.
We'll still look at this. I
Still
mean, you could
sell
look up.
for
They would try to blow up anything Pokemon related. You would think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not necessarily too, because some of those places are just so set in their ways they don't. They just don't care.
Where was that place we go? Pre-plates. Sometimes they have games that are way overpriced.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when it came to like the Pokemon type.
They focus on media, so like they specifically research and look at that stuff.
Yeah.
They have an entire group dedicated to doing nothing but looking for that stuff and pricing it.
Right.
So, but like an actual like mom and pop shop, most of those places aren't going to care.
No.
No.
But that's still that to me. That blew me away.
Unless they have a younger generation that knows this stuff and was like, you're doing this with that. Because you'll see it sometimes. You'll go to like some of those like places that sell secondhand stuff, and you can see its price, and you're like, yeah, I can tell you that old lady behind the counter didn't price this at that.
Yeah.
So, but no, just kind of a little side note that I remembered about like grading and population reports and stuff. So Carl had brought up another great point too, where there was a sealed copy of Spider-Man on the Atari for the Atari that it got a really super high grade. I think it was like 9.8 or something like that. So it was like it was immaculate.
Yeah,
It sold
for like nothing.
No. It sold on Heritage in 2020 for $38,000. And
Comparatively nothing.
And the funny thing is, like, it's not a rare game.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he showed that there was like, because of that $38,000,
The price on
then
eBay,
all of a sudden
yeah.
then all of a sudden on Heritage they had so many 9.8 Spider-Mans, and it's like, wait a minute, you just said that this is like
immaculate.
It's rare. How are all these 9.8s now coming out? And he said that the most recent one sold through Heritage for $870.
Oh my God!
How do you go?
How do you sell a 9 point?
How do you go from $30,000 to not even $900 for a
Seems
copy?
like intentionally saturated.
Well, actually, and this is something pure speculation on my point. And it's going to sound kind of shitty. It makes me wonder how many people and groups are now using video games the way they used to use art for money laundering.
Well, I honestly don't think that it's a money laundering thing.
But it could.
I mean, it could potentially
And that's also a way that cartels and gangs used to hide drug sales. Go in, you buy a painting for $10,000. No one's going to scoff that you paid $10,000 for a painting, but you were paying $10,000 for drugs or to swap money so you're not traceable. So,
and
is it possible that this is a potential seedy side of what's happening?
And it could very well be, but this is the danger of not publishing population reports.
Yeah.
When you see that there are 1,500 of something in a 9.8, well, all of a sudden the 9.8s really aren't they're not that special anymore because there's so many of them.
And how do that many? That's to me. How do that many?
Yes.
How do that many
show up
that way?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In a relatively short amount of time. That's suspicious.
So
and all the same exact score.
And all the same exact score.
My God.
And it was just that's why I honestly do not know why anybody would send their stuff to WATA. Like, how can you trust them?
Through Heritage.
How can you trust them after this? You can't. I don't know how you can get your trust back in them.
That is insane. I didn't know that about the Spider-Man.
Yeah. That's part of that video.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's...
So, I mean, it's definitely a unique situation, but one
well, not so unique as it turns out.
Yeah, as it turns out. But, I mean, it's just, it's something that just, to me, I feel not really vindicated. Vindicated's too strong of a word, but it's when WATA came onto the scene, I already didn't trust them because they were branding themselves as like the experts, the authority in video game grading. And from somebody who has gone from collecting toys where there was obvious grading going on like near the tail end of my collecting, then to comic books where then grading took off for there, and then seeing cards already being graded, I already knew that there was grading services around, so I knew that VGA had been around for forever.
Sports memorabilia has been being graded for longer than we've been alive.
So when WATA came and all of these big articles were written about how WATA is the foremost authority on grading and they know their grades better than anybody else, and it's like, where do they come from? Why is everybody giving them so much credit? Yeah. Why are they giving them clout? Why are they giving them all this? And every time there would be an article about, a video game sells for a landmark amount, and I'm just it's
always the same.
Let me guess.
Attached to it.
Let me guess. Heritage Auction sold something that was WATA graded. Yep, sure enough. But everybody is talking about it like, well, this is it. The video game craze is going nuts now, and it's going to levels never seen before. It's like, okay, do you guys know what a bubble looks like?
So now this will be actually a good point to go towards closing out. But so do you think when this full thing is fully exposed, and whether it's shown to be fraudulent or legit, if it's shown to be fraudulent, how do you think it will affect video game pricings for collectors? Do you think they're going to go down significantly, or do you think it's going to drop a bit and then stable out?
So here's the thing. Oh, you can start since you haven't.
I mean, personally, I think people will realize that because I would imagine people are seeing all these prices, they're going to buy up a bunch of shit. Like we said, Death and Return of Superman. That was the whole premise of it. Is people bought these things in droves, thinking that they were going to have
the next collectible and put their kids through college.
Yeah. And then when it ended up showing that everybody had one, they're just going to dump it.
Yeah.
I have a feeling with games, it might end up the same situation. So people are just going to flood the market with it.
You think certain games will drop, and then the ones that are actually rare will still kind of stable out?
I think so. I think your Panzer Dragoon sagas, your stadium events, your Little Samsons will all stay relatively the same, but you'll see a dip in a lot of the lesser ones.
And that's what I also think too, is that once the smoke clears from all of this, yes, the bubble will... I can't say that it will burst, but I mean, it will burst, but it won't be for the whole entirety of video games. You're going to have games like Little Samson, like Panzer Dragoon Saga, that are always going to be rare, and they're always going to be hard to find. And so I don't think that those values are ever going to dip. Yeah, they may come down a little bit, or they're going to stabilize, but they're still going to be relatively high. Graded games or sealed games are going to just crash. They are going to crash and burn. And honest to God, if the video game market crashes, I am so excited and looking forward to it because honestly, it will get all of those people who are the investors, who are the non-gamers, they will leave and try to go to the next thing.
So to go back to the way it was.
Exactly.
So okay, then
back to when we were collecting.
So
exactly.
Then the other question is, if by some chance it is proven to be legitimate and there is no fuckery going on behind the scenes.
Bullshit.
No, this is a big hypothetical. Do you think it'll keep rising until it hits that breaking point, or do you think it'll stay like roughly where it is now?
If
Paul.
If they okay.
The biggest if with salt you've ever had.
Okay. It's legit. if it ends up being legit, I honestly I cannot fathom that video games can go for much more, because if you go so high, you price regular people out of the market.
Yeah.
The only people who are trading games then are the people who care nothing for video games. They only care about the cost, the price of the game, and just trading it to the next person, and they're going to lose interest in it.
Honestly, I think that if either way, the bubble will burst.
Because like it'll get too big. It'll be too big to
how bad it bursts, though.
Yeah,
but like you said, the people who will buy it have no interest.
No,
and they're not savvy enough to know what it's going to be.
Exactly.
So you're gonna take the people like us out of it.
Yes.
So then they're all left.
You mean normal people don't drive Lambos everywhere?
And soon enough, just nothing's gonna sell.
No, and that's the thing too, is that they are going to price themselves out of the market, and it's going to burst just as a result of that. Is that the regular people who want the games are going to no longer be able to afford them, and so now you have it's
the same 10 people trading games.
It's all supply and demand, and guess what? If you don't have demand, and now you have all of this supply, well, guess what? It's going to start deflating, or it's going to crash because nobody wants it, and there's a glut of it on the market that nobody can really afford to pay.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, now what good's it going to do you?
Yeah. That's very interesting.
Although I do have one more, like, super cynical question about this.
Oh, no. Very inquisitive today, Kevin.
How often especially, like, I know with, like, memorabilia and games like that, how often do you think people will spot something, buy it, and destroy it to drive up the price of something they already have?
I was thinking about something like that, actually.
I don't think that, no.
No, to an actual collector they wouldn't, but to an outside investor, how often do you think something like that happens?
Oh.
To a collector, I wouldn't get an NES game and be like, oh, fuck this game, smash it so my other one goes up.
We had kind of joked about that one time when we were talking about the rise of certain games being pricey. It's because they were rare. You're like, what would stop me from buying all of the copies of fucking Top Gun? Yeah. And just destroying everything except the 5 that I have. Mm-hmm. Now nobody can find Top Gun.
Not as collectors wouldn't do that, because collectors want other people to feel that excitement too. Usually,
no, and it's funny because I've actually thought that with with certain collectibles. So there was a Toy Fair exclusive that came out in 2002. It was the silver anniversary of Star Wars. And so
those the ones that were only available at, like, the conventions.
Yeah, that one was available only at a convention.
I've seen what happens with those.
It was the Darth Vader. When I really wanted it, when it was around 2002, 2003, that figure was going for upwards of like $300-400, and I could never afford it. So then, after 10 years, 15 years, I finally got one for myself, and I paid like $80 for it because the price has just plummeted.
Yeah.
And it would be funny to look it up now, just because I haven't looked it up in a while. But I thought to myself, well, if these things are really that cheap, like, what's to stop me from just buying every single one that I see on eBay? And then, like, it literally dries up the market. So then, okay, let's wait 1 year, and then let's reintroduce one into the market and see what it goes for. Let's reintroduce another one and see what it goes for. And I've thought to myself, like, well, what's to stop somebody who has a lot of money and just a lot of free time, like, what's to stop them from doing that?
Or from, like I said, from destroying stuff to drive up the value.
And
like, from an outside investor, like, granted, that might be illegal.
That seems more feasible, though. Like, I think that they may have the ability to do that. I mean, these investors and stuff like that, they may have the money. They may have the money to do it. So, but again, the game is only rare to the people who want it and the people who play it.
Right.
Little Samson is rare as hell, but it's a fun game.
And people actually want it.
And people wanted to play it.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you are purposely manipulating the market to make something rare, you're losing your core audience who would buy those games.
I mean, yeah, what would really stop someone from buying all the copies of Fester's Quest?
Yeah.
Can't imagine, compared to a Super Mario Brothers, there's that many copies of Fester's Quest for $6 a piece.
Yeah. A great one would be Eliminator Boat Duel.
Oh, Eliminator Boat Duel.
That's a deep cut.
So
or like Swords and Serpents, $8.
Jaws.
That's it. Jaws.
Yeah,
all of these titles that nobody just wants.
Nobody wants. But yeah, make it artificially difficult to find because you're buying up every single copy you find,
and then disposing of them, so you are the only source of it.
Well, it's
Pretty
funny.
Sure that's a monopoly.
Well, it's funny because somebody.
But in secondhand markets, you can't have a monopoly.
I suppose not.
Because you're not a business. You're not a business. You cannot have a monopoly in secondhand markets.
It's funny because somebody actually they tried to claim that they caused an artificial bubble with a Game Boy game, that they had done the exact same thing that we're talking about, where they wanted to try to buy up every single copy.
I think we've talked about that
with
before.
Rampart.
Yeah,
it was Rampart, where he said that the game on price charting was like $15 or $10 it started off at, and he's like, I want to buy copies of this game until the value of it goes up to at least $25. And sure enough, he bought like 10 or 20 copies of it, and because there was less on eBay, less on the market, it started causing the price to go up for those remaining copies of people who still wanted it. And so he's like, yeah, I created an artificial bubble. Although you don't really hear about it anymore, but it's... But
well, because that one, it was a microcosm, and it probably settled out.
Yeah, and I don't know if it necessarily, I don't know if I could give him full credit for it. Like, how could you manipulate a market only going after, 20 copies of something?
Theoretically...
Depending on the number of copies in the wild.
Let's say you and I wanted to do that with a game.
Yeah.
So we find every auction that has these games and just bid against each other until it hits that price that we want it to go to. Yeah. That auction ends, it ends up on that price.
Yeah.
Well, other people will do research, be like, oh, I wonder what this game's going for. They say, oh, this recent copy sold for $35. I'll put it at $35. And then you and I do the same thing, where we bid back and forth until it hits another thing, and then it sells for that. And because that's basically, because we usually use price charting to determine our value.
That's actually why, price charting and stuff is dangerous. It's useful, a useful tool, but it's dangerous because it's not necessarily...
It sets a standard that might not even be realistic.
Right. Which is why, that one errant copy of Panzer Dragoon Saga that sold for $2,500 suddenly shot the value of it up $200. This is theoretical or hypothetical.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it slowly went back down because people were like, that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, exactly.
But couldn't we technically do that?
Well, and then there's another way to manipulate.
I don't want to give anybody any ideas here.
Because
there's
that's
another
kind of
way. Actually, we've seen
bidding.
prices manipulated. What was the one game at was it Midwest Gaming Classic where you saw the price on it and laughed?
Bonk's Adventure.
Because it was way overpriced.
He wanted, what is it, $2,500 that one year?
The first year we saw it was $2,800.
Yeah,
he wanted for it. Then the next year we were back.
I think we even made a joke about it in that video. Yeah. And then the next year we saw the same one and we made a joke about it again.
That's another way of manipulating the market.
Because it was $2,800. The same guy had it the next year for $3,000.
Which doesn't even go for that new.
No, it doesn't go for that new. And so that's why we joked around, because we're like, okay, the next Midwest Gaming Classic, how much you want to bet it's going to be $3,500? He's going to have it again.
So, and that's another way you could do it. You could intentionally put one out for an absurd price, and then put other ones out for cheaper so they sell.
Our working theory was that he was doing it just to draw people into the stand, because that was front and fucking center, that one. So you see that big name quote unquote big name title.
Yeah.
Big expensive title, and you're like, all right, I wonder what else this guy has.
That's a showpiece. It's to get you into the door and then start looking at
that's
your
like,
other
what
stuff.
was it? Was it the complete copy of Earthbound at the one store? Oh, it's not for sale.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
Oh, that's not for sale.
Oh yeah.
Anything
or
in
the
that
first
case,
time-
that case is not for sale.
Or the first time that I saw Stack Up complete at the store, well, that's not really for sale. I'm like,
Why is it in your fucking store?
Then why is it in the case? Why is it there? Well, if I sell it, I'm probably not going to find another copy of it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
But that's why, like, even to go back to the grading thing, like, it feels so arbitrary.
Yeah.
And
That's why I can't trust it.
even values of games in general is so fickle. Like I always
it's constantly
it's
it's
so
constantly
ever changing, and a lot of people are just like it's turning them off with how expensive a lot of like PS1, PS2.
Well, that's why for at one point emulation the use of emulation actually drove up. Was because people would see these games going for these high prices and being like,
it's like I can't afford this. So
what's so special about this game? So they would go download the emulator and be like, oh, okay, I've played it. Okay, move on.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they'd just be like, I no longer want that.
That's why I said, like, if there really are investors and people who aren't video game like players by nature who are infiltrating the video game market, they're pricing themselves out of the market, because the people like us who want to just play the games, own them to play them, you're pricing us out of the market. So we were willing to spend $200 on a game. We weren't willing to spend $1,200 on a game. So guess what? Congratulations, having 5 copies of it. You're not selling it to us.
Yeah.
We were your best shot at you selling this.
That's why I'm always curious when, like, the couple of classics we had gone to before COVID, it's like we started to slowly see more and more copies of, like, Little Samson or Panzer Dragoon Saga. Like, all of a sudden they started coming out of the woodworks, and I always think to myself, like, who's actually, but like, do they actually sell these things here?
Well, to be honest, we actually saw that with other games. When we were looking for Dot Hack GU and Xenosaga, couldn't find them anywhere. Soon as we had the complete of both of them, we saw them everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now they're expensive. Like that Dot Hack Part 4 Quarantine.
Oh, Quarantine.
I bought that for $80 at Coliseum.
Who's gonna pay $80? I'll take it.
Right there.
I want to say now, like, and
Thanks, Ollie.
shortly after that game is probably complete, over $300.
Wow.
Dot Hack. Oh yeah, first thing that even comes up is Dot Hack Quarantine. Loose 182, complete 301. So I was actually really close.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insanity.
Mm-hmm.
The gaming market is so insane right now.
But to be quite honest, yeah, like that would be my dream, is that the
bubble deflates.
bursts and everybody just stops
Anyone that's
buying
not a
stuff.
hardcore
I don't even
collector.
care if a game like Rule of Rose ends up going down to like $100, because then it's like,
you've
you know
already got
what?
it. You've got your enjoyment.
Well,
of
yeah,
playing
I've already played it multiple times. I loved it, but it's like, I wouldn't care if games like that start just completely nosediving, because then that means like I can go back to the way that it was before any of this stuff started happening, and now I can start enjoying games. Maybe you'll see more people getting rid of their games and selling them to mom and pop stores, and then you're gonna start seeing more of a variety.
Yeah,
back
and
in the stores again.
That was my next question. Do you think it'll ever get back to the way it was in the heyday of finding them?
Sadly enough, I don't think it will.
Because the reason all of these prices started going up was when price charting started documenting it.
Yep.
Otherwise, you basically went off, like, because you know,
could only
we
go
started
off of,
when we were collecting, we knew which games were rare by the fact that we just didn't see them very often. Like, what was one we played recently where it didn't go for a lot, but damn, it sure didn't seem like we saw. Was it North and South, I think?
Yeah, North and South.
Like, you really don't see it very often, and I want to say it wasn't absurdly expensive. I think it was like $30 or $40 or something, wasn't it?
Card only it was. The game itself complete, which you rarely ever see it complete. Yeah. It's not even $100 for some reason, and I don't understand why.
But it's a game that you really, like, I feel like we've seen less than a handful of times.
Yeah.
So it's like, it would be nice to, now you just see the glut of Marios and Zeldas and Final Fantasy 3's.
It's always the same 20 games.
you always see
Yes.
the same games at every store, and it's just I miss the days when you could walk into a store and you would see
Come out
just
with a stack.
hundreds of unique titles. Like, wow, I didn't even know this game existed. Like, oh, cool. And now, I mean, I'm running into the point where, like, Game Boy, which I collect, like, you hardly see any Game Boy games on shelves.
No,
It's
not
just,
really.
there's just not many of them left out there.
Yeah.
So,
What we need to do is just find the next collectible thing and get these investors interested in the next collectible.
See,
Start the bubble, find something,
The problem
start
is-
the bubble, then get the fuck out and let them just go to town on
we
it.
don't even know what the bubble is or what it's gonna
Then
be.
that's
Yeah.
yeah. That's,
People collect stupid shit. Did anybody see Beanie Babies fucking taking off? I mean,
I thought they were dumb to begin with.
I
so-
still,
Exactly,
I still
like-
think that Pops are the next, like, it's this generation's Beanie Babies, basically.
Pops are
it's-
definitely.
But Pops, for some reason, they're just not, like, the prices are just not going down. I
Except
don't
for-
get it.
Except for with the Funko Pops, at least they're a little bit different in that they can keep getting the licenses from different stuff.
that's because
Yeah.
the
To put
pops
up-
of
Yeah.
every.
They can literally
Yeah.
target different demographics by
Mm-hmm.
putting out unique ones. So I don't think they'll ever be the same.
Hey, grandparents, you remember MASH? Let's
Yeah.
do some
Hey!
Funko Pop
Yeah.
MASH thing.
I would absolutely buy every single one of those.
But that's what I'm
Radar.
saying. Like He-Man, you guys remember He-Man? Like Jesus,
They're
you
doing
could
He-Man now.
you could do Funko Pops
Yeah,
of literally
of
anything.
anything.
Yeah.
So it's like that's almost like the perfect market.
Funko,
really think about it.
if you're somehow listening, do the wizard.
I can't believe they haven't.
I want Corey.
I would actually find individual movies and just be like,
yeah,
we'll use these. And
yeah. That's insane.
I want Corey and Jimmy
Because
and Haley.
Funko Pops really are the perfect market.
Yeah,
Because
they
you
are.
can literally target anyone.
And as soon as
Anybody.
one market starts dying, they can be like, okay, we can cut these ones off.
Yeah.
Find, a brand new game just came out. We'll
Yeah,
we'll
let's
start
do
pulling
that.
the characters
Yep.
from that and do
Let's
that.
start throwing out Samus Pops, you
Yeah.
know,
Oh,
for
yeah.
Metroid Dread.
Yeah.
I mean,
There
they
you go.
almost kind of do it with amiibos,
Yeah.
in a way. So it's like,
That's weird. I guess maybe
Yeah,
they.
Funko are, like, the
Funko has
perfect.
not done Nintendo characters though. I wonder if
other than, I want to say Mario, maybe. Actually, no, because I wonder if Nintendo wouldn't give them the rights.
that's what I'm thinking. Is
Ooh.
either the rights are too expensive or Nintendo just outright will not give them the rights to it.
I would imagine the
I
latter.
think it's the latter. I think it's the latter.
Yes. But
Well, they
other
got,
than
like,
Pikachu.
Pikachu,
Yeah.
some Pokemon
But I can't
ones.
imagine Mario
Yeah.
Brothers or Zelda
No.
or any of their big IPs. Because Pokemon, to be honest, you'd be almost a fool not to.
Yeah, exactly.
Pokemon
Yeah.
is such a phenomenon in itself that. you
But
know,
they also only do specific ones: Squirtle, Bulbasaur, Charmander, Pikachu,
probably Eevee,
maybe Eevee.
maybe Evolutions.
But I think that's it. Like, yeah, they haven't. They're only doing the common ones. I think they've done Mewtwo.
Maybe Mr.
Yeah.
Mime.
They've been trying since
Funko wants to work with Nintendo to make Mario Funko Pop. That'll never happen.
2019 is when
That-
this article was from.
Yeah, that-
Oh
never
wow! Yeah, no, it hasn't happened yet, and it won't.
But yes,
So, yeah,
grading, whether you agree with it or not, shit.
I think with any like collectible like that, you all like there are inherent dangers with it. But I think that again, to me, if it's something you like to do and you get enjoyment out of it, go ahead and do it. We're not here to dissuade you. We're not here to turn you off to something.
Not at all.
Any kind of enjoyment you get out of something, it's worth it. But we definitely wanted to say our words about WATA and Heritage, and I knew from the start that I did not trust them. There was something about them, and it
And-
seems like more and more is coming into
Coming
the
into light.
forefront
Well,
and
I'm
into the
saying
light.
we'll probably do after more is revealed. We'll probably do another
Yeah, Carl.
the thing because he's
Yeah.
still ongoing. I know there are law firms looking at stuff.
Yeah, I
And
think
from what
he
I
made-
understand, based on some of the stuff that was put out, there might be some federal agencies looking into
Yep,
it.
I
Yeah,
was going
would
to
it be
say
the
Carl.
SEC?
Carl's actually going to be doing, and if you guys
Like he's been
haven't,
contacted by quite a few different people.
obviously, I don't think that we're as big as Carl Jobst
Okay.
is.
Oh, God.
But Carl Jobst is on YouTube. I would highly recommend
I-
looking him up because he is an old school journalist through and through. He is the kind of journalist you wish that most journalists were still.
Yeah.
You mean he's not BuzzFeed guy?
Yeah, exactly. So, but he chased down all this information, and he is now saying that there are
how he's under 1 million subscribers.
Yeah, I don't know, but you guys owe it to check him out on YouTube for sure.
I would say so.
He is a very
Or Twitter.
Very informed.
He is a very informed individual. He talks about things very unbiased and just it gives you the facts and kind of colors it.
He's definitely old school journalist in an age where that style.
But yeah,
is
he's the
gone.
one who said that this is just the tip of the iceberg, and that there is a lot more coming soon, and that there is possible federal indictments that may be coming out soon as a result of all of this activity that happened.
And the funny thing is, it took one person to finally go, what the fuck is going on? Get all the information in one spot, and have the he had the courage to reach out to various people, to get information, to find people that were willing to shed some light on stuff that maybe some people don't want out in the open.
Exactly.
It honestly wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing people who work for like heritage. The heritage.
There have been some former employees that have talked.
Yeah. Almost like whistleblowers, kind of. You know.
Yeah, one of the guys.
Surprise me.
One of the guys that he talked to was actually the son of somebody who used to work at Heritage Auctions, and said, this is what
his dad used to talk and complain about this.
He said that what this guy would do is the guy who owns Heritage Auctions, Jim Halpern, he's got a humongous comic book collection, and he would every so often he would take a comic that's graded that he thought was like he wanted it to be more money. He would basically put it up on the auction block for $3,000. He would buy his own comic book and then put it back into storage for the next couple of years, because now that comic is worth $3,000. He'll put it back out on the market 3 years later for $6,000. He'll buy it from himself again, put it back into his collection. Well, now guess what? That comic's worth $6,000 because it just sold on this day for $6,000.
Good God.
I mean, it's the
I wish I had that kind of money.
The shadiness is just, I mean, for somebody who owns an auction house, how could you ever trust that person ever again?
Really?
How could you trust that auction house ever again?
To be honest, how can you trust,
How can you trust them after the first time?
Yeah.
Well, no, they're like, the entire market has no... Even the good companies that do grading are now all in a bad light and cannot be trusted. Yeah. So entire businesses are going to be destroyed because of this.
It hurts even the legit people. I do believe that CGC, PSA, I think they are legit services. They do
Collectors
things...
Universe might get hurt.
Yeah, that VGA, they all did things the way that they should have done. They did it the best of their abilities, and they made it they gave the population reports so that people could make their own determinations on value. They didn't encourage anything, and now you get a player like WATA who has absolutely just completely upended that.
Not only that, but how pissed are you if you sent something in to get graded, they valued at $10,000 and you just gave them $1,000 because you have to pay that 10%. Like, fucking mad are you that you just basically gave them $1,000 for nothing?
Yeah,
because their grades are bogus.
Exactly.
Like, I wouldn't doubt if they start getting a lot of lawsuits against them from just
probably from just plain old for plain regular people.
Yeah,
who had turned in their submissions and stuff.
Good God, man.
Yeah, so
what a tangled web.
Oh God, it opens up a can of worms. Yeah, it's funny. It's once you open up Pandora's box, you can no longer close it. Nope, it's out in the open right now.
That's right. So, like I said before, whether you feel grading is legit or not, if you agree with it or not, it's something that's happening.
Yeah, let us know.
Definitely legitimizes my view that it's all a sham.
Let us know what you think. Regardless, if you think it's a sham or you trust it or you think that it's a good thing for the collectible. Let us know.
Absolutely. So yeah, that'll do it for this. You can hit us up on Facebook.
Hit us up on Twitter.
You can go to powertripgaming.tv. Maybe check out the YouTube channel where we play through the 678 expensive NES game collection.
Yes. The collection that's probably worth about $5 million.
Gemmintu!
And I'm Gemmintu. So if you do not want to check us out on social media or contact us on social media because you do not like Twitter or all of those other things, you can go to nespowertrip@gmail.com. You can submit an email to us and we will answer it.
That's right.
The old-fashioned way.
So now we're just going to make a paper trail. Paul, you're going to sell me the collection for $100,000. and then I'll just give it back to you, and then you're gonna sell it to me for 200,000. We now have a paper trail, and we're gonna keep doing this, and it's gonna go to Circle, and then we're gonna sell your collection for millions.
I'm gonna reach out to BuzzFeed tomorrow. TMZ! Collection sells for $2.8 trillion to one man. Yes, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can go to iTunes, Stitcher, or Spotify, and PTG Powercast is on there as well. So that'll do it. PTG Powercast. Now you have been listening with power. That's right.
Paper trail!
The light bulb above my head is now starting to get brighter. Crap. It sounds like a good idea. Foolproof.
Fool's right.